Hey everyone, Bruce City Geek here. So today I thought I'd talk about how to use Spinrite. Just a little quick tutorial on some of the settings that I use and what I use it for. And without further ado, let's just jump right in. Okay, so here I have Spinrite running in a virtual box, virtual machine. Um, Spinrite is a disk recovery and maintenance utility. We'll go over some of the settings as we get involved here. So here's the introductory screens. There's a couple of notes on the licensing, your serial number, who it's licensed to. Spinrite is not free. Spinrite is purchased software, I believe, for a brand new copy of 6.0, which is the most recent release. It's about, I think, 15 years old now. Is $89 if I remember right. But it is bar none the best disk recovery utility that money can buy. Buy it once, use it personally, and all your disks will be maintained. You will never have a problem with data loss. So let's continue on here to the next screen. This is kind of the introductory screen. This goes over the levels. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, 2 is for recovery mode, 4 is for maintenance mode. Maintenance is for when you have a disk that there's nothing wrong with, you just kind of want to keep maintaining it, as maintenance would suggest. Level 4 is much slower and it will take much longer. I will get to the screen that goes over that in detail in just a second. 2 is for recovery. That's kind of the meat and potatoes here. That's where you would want to look for a standard spinning disk. If it's slowing down, you're having trouble getting data off of it, that's the level you want to run Spinrite on that drive. Spinrite also does work on SSDs, solid states, but they really don't recommend that you go over level 1 unless Spinrite is detecting an issue. So now let's get into the screen here. So here's where you can view or change your settings. We'll go there first. Okay, so here's level 2. So here's the levels we talked about earlier. 2 and 4 are the most common. I don't really use 3 or 5. In theory, those would be... so they're in order of least intensive to most intensive. 5 taking the longest amount of time, being the most intensive on the disk. And level 1 being basically strictly for SSDs. So recover unreadable data is the recovery mode. Locate surface defects is the maintenance mode. I'm not going to go into what Spinrite does. Steve covers that fairly well, and it's pretty well documented on his website, grc.com, and he also did a Security Now podcast about it. I'm not sure what the number is, but I'll put it in the show notes if I find it, or in the comments below. So you can log activities to the device. This is a virtual machine that's basically emulating a DOS box with Spinrite running off of a virtual floppy. That's why it says log activities to device A. Floppy drives are typically the A drive in DOS and Windows-based machines. So you can log activities. You could print out the log if you so choose to. I don't recommend that because the log can be pretty verbose, and I've never even attempted it. So my recommendation would be log activities to the device, and then it basically just puts them in a text file you can pull up on a different machine at a later date. And you can keep up to 9,999 logs. So that basically, there's 1 log per disk that you scan. So currently, I believe the default is 30, which is what I have it set to now. That will allow me to save the last 30 disks, the logs from the last 30 disks that I've scanned, so I can go back and review at a later date. Or if a client wants to see the log, I can provide that as well. You can set the verbosity of the logs, full sentences, short phrases. I recommend full sentences. Data storage size these days isn't a problem. With this logs going into a text file, it's just better to have verbose than short sentences. You can include the drive information in the log, yes or no. I always put yes. And drive benchmarking in the log. Drive benchmarking is this. You can perform drive benchmarks, which I recommend you do. If you buy a new hard drive, load up Spinrite, perform the drive benchmarks right away, and then later on down the line, if you're experiencing problems with the drive, come and hit it again. You can review the two logs, right? So if you perform the benchmark when the drive is new and you compare it to the benchmark that you ran when you're having issues with the drive, you may be able to tell some differences in the logs by what is actually causing the problem. So that could be interesting if that's what you want to review. So to perform the drive benchmarks, all you have to do is select that number, select your drive here. I only have one, so it's easy. Basically just hit enter. It'll do a quick scan. It's a pretty small drive, so it won't take very long. And that's it. So if the drive or the computer you're running Spinrite on supports smart reporting, it'll say it right there. Random sector access, there's the value there. Sector access velocity, burst transfer rate, sustained transfer rate. So those values could change with age and use of the drive. And again, I recommend putting that in the log so that you can go back and review it at a later date. Without any more interruptions, let's go ahead and select drive 0 to run Spinrite on. Now, because I have that setting selected, it should perform the benchmark again prior to actually running level 2. So you hit spacebar to select the drive, and then you hit enter. And just there's a cautionary warning here. Spinrite is about to begin level 2 operations. You may hold shift while pressing enter. This is useful for if you're running a more intensive level. You can tell it at what percentage of the drive to start or finish at. So if you're interrupted or you need to boot back into the operating system, you can pause it, note the completion percentage that it's at, and resume it at a later date. But we're just going to start from 0 and go to 100. Here's the benchmarking I was talking about. So it's going to put that information in the log. And that's pretty quick. Like I said, this is a small 500 megabyte drive. The larger the drive size, the longer it's going to take. So you can kind of arrow through the screens that are here. Let's show you the graphic status display. This is the real-time activities that you can flip to while Spinrite is running. Because it's complete, it's not showing any data, not any live data anyway. Here's the technical log. This is basically what gets written to the disk. So you can go back and review it at a later date in just a normal text editor. This isn't publishing smart data, so it's not showing that. That's really, it's not necessary for Spinrite to function. It's nice to have, but it's, like I said, again, not necessary. Dynastat data recovery. So Spinrite will automatically flip to this screen when it detects a problem with the drive. If it's having trouble or struggling reading data from a sector, it'll flip over here and kick into Dynastat mode. And basically what it does, it tries to read from the sector over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until the drive basically says, yep, okay, here's the data that I've got in that sector. And then Spinrite will take it, mark that sector as bad, move that data to another sector, and all is right with the world. Here's the ending screen. You can change levels on the fly. You can switch from level 2 to 4, vice versa. I will run this again on level 4 just for funsies. Here's that benchmark again. This is going to take a little bit longer because it is doing essentially twice the amount of work. So instead of being complete in just 5 seconds, it will still complete fairly quickly. But I've run disks on level 4 and just kind of let them run overnight. That typically is enough time, depending upon the state of the drive. But if it's not, I will pause it, note the completion percentage, and then just resume it the next evening when it's not being used. So the resume on percentage feature actually works pretty well. You'll notice the time remaining is blank. Spinrite takes the first full minute to calculate how much time it will need to complete the rest of the drive. So until the completed reaches 60, that time remaining is going to be blank. Boom, done. All right, so there you have it. I hope this video was helpful. Um, if you'd like to see more content like this with this or any other utility, check out my other video I did on Rufus. Just little helpful tips and tricks that I can think of that I can put out there. Trying to put good content out into the community. So please subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell so you get notifications when a new video is released. Follow me on Twitter. You can reach me at BruceCityGeek. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video, and enjoy your day, guys.